In this video, I'm going to go over some pretty decent stocks that are all on the Robinhood app and are also under $50. But before I get into the video, if you haven't checked out my channel before, I talk about investing, I talk about the stock market, really anything that has to do with money. So if you're interested in anything like that, definitely head over onto my channel, Investing Potentials, and consider subscribing. Now, this was actually a subscriber slash commenter requested video, and a lot of people out there honestly ask for certain stocks under certain price amounts. Like some people say, hey, do you know if there's a stock around $100, around $50? So all these stocks are under $50, and I try to get them more towards that $50 range. I didn't want to choose like a $10 stock or anything like that. But anyways, without further ado, the first one is AT&T, ticker symbol T, currently at $38. And just so you guys know, the market did perform very, very poorly this past week. It was actually dropped the lowest it has, or excuse me, it's shed the most points it has in a long, long time, the Dow Jones anyways. But AT&T, anyways, here it is. One nice thing about AT&T is they have a very, very high dividend yield, around 5%, and they are a very large company as well, but still around $38. Next stock I'll be looking at is Intel right here, ticker symbol INTC. Intel, a technology company. You probably heard of Intel before. They do computers, products, technologies, pretty much anything that has to do with computers and laptops and things like that. They also do some chips and stuff. But Intel, very good company right here. They have a pretty solid dividend as well. Really solid PE ratio, overall pretty solid company. I think they have great future growth perspective, and they are a pretty solid yet cheap stock to hold in your tech sector. Next one is Square, ticker symbol SQ, and this one's not, I guess, more speculative, but I guess a little bit more risky and definitely more of a growth stock. As you can see, I'm up around 60% on them right now. And they also are currently not profitable, but they are getting closer and closer to profitability, as you can see on these EPSs right here. Even though Robinhood doesn't do a very good job of showing that, you can kind of see that they're getting closer. But PE ratio doesn't have one, dividend yield doesn't have one, but it definitely makes up with it for the growth, as you can see in the past year, up over 200%. I bought it a while ago at $26, and really at $26, I thought it was a really big steal, even though it had a lot of growth still. And Square, really solid overall stock. You might not have heard of Square before, but it's basically an online credit card payment programs, and they also do things like help you build websites and stuff like that. Jack Dorsey, I really like him a lot. He's the CEO and founder of Twitter, also of Square, or founded Square at least. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure if he's still actually the CEO. But anyways, Square, pretty solid stock that's right around that $50 range, but still definitely won't break the bank, especially with a small portfolio on the Robinhood app, or wherever it may be, I guess. But next one we'll be getting into that I also hold in my portfolio. Some ones that are actually kind of close are like Nike is kind of close. Starbucks is relatively close, but they're a little bit over, so I didn't include them. But those are two stocks to look at. But anyways, next one is GM, ticker symbol GM. Barely up on them. I think this is actually because I kept buying more shares of them. I technically am up because, let's see, yeah, I bought a share at like $34, bought one at $42. I just kind of buy them sometimes if the price dips or something like that. But GM, they have a very good dividend yield as well, around 4.36, which is really great. Dividend yields over 4 or 5% for companies this big and well known like AT&T, GM are somewhat hard to come by, but nonetheless, obviously this is a very good stock. Doesn't have the greatest growth, only up 18% in the year, 72% in the past 5 years, but the dividend yield definitely does help, and it's probably a company that's not going anywhere soon. I think it's relatively undervalued as well. I've said this about GM in the past. I think that it definitely has potential to reach higher and higher, and one thing that I've talked about GM also is that they are definitely moving forward with electric cars and with more incorporating AI into their cars and self-driving cars, which I think is definitely the future in the automobile industry. Whether or not you're interested in that is your own opinion, but I think that's a really cool thing and a really good thing for GM overall that some other companies aren't doing. But GM, $40, very good pick right there. That's under 50 on the Robinhood app. Next one we'll be going to that's also my portfolio. This one's a little bit cheaper, around $36. Pfizer, ticker symbol E. This is a biopharmaceutical company, and if we look how they've done past year, up 18%, and past 5 years up 59%. So once again, not a great growth company right here, or at least not a great growth stock, but it still has a really, really good dividend yield at 3.59. Very large company, 218 billion market cap. Another one that I think is pretty close to being undervalued. 10 PE ratio right around there. Profitable company still, obviously, but Pfizer, biopharmaceutical company. If you want to up your healthcare sector but don't have the money to go buy some larger stocks like I have, like Johnson & Johnson or AbbVie, definitely check out Pfizer at $36, pretty cheap. One of the better yet cheaper healthcare stocks out there. There really aren't a whole lot of other ones that you could find that are in this range that are still decent at the same time. Next stock we'll be looking at, and as you can see as I scroll through my portfolio, there also are some stocks like Morgan Stanley and, like I said, Starbucks and Nike above that are relatively close, but I didn't include them because they're over. Next one I'll be talking about is Bank of America, and this one's a bit cheaper than $50 at $30, but I really like Bank of America a lot. I think they're a great banking stock. Obviously, there's been all this hype with the interest rates and stuff like that, so maybe banking stocks are going to take a dip in the next couple of weeks or so, depending on what happens, but definitely won't be a permanent thing or anything like that. Usually, stocks tend to be more of a short-term switch to political news. It tends not to be very long-term, but Bank of America, very large company, 300 billion market cap, 20 PE ratio, and they do have a small dividend yield, a bit smaller than these other stocks, but they do still have a little bit of room to increase it, and probably will. But anyways, Bank of America, pretty well-known national bank in the U.S., pretty solid stock overall. If we look at the year and 5 year, pretty decent growth as well. And this is one of those really cheap stocks that are great to have in your portfolio because they're so cheap, but still a great company. And the next stock I'll be talking about, this one is right at 51, so I'll keep it in this, but it's Realty Income. It's actually gone down quite a bit over the past couple of weeks or so. I think it's really in the red all around besides 5 year, but this definitely isn't a growth stock at all. This is actually a monthly dividend stock. So, if you're new to investing or new to the Robinhood app, what that means is most stocks, if they have a dividend yield, they give them out 4 times a year, but this one gives it 12 times a year every single month. As you can see right here, I've owned it for a few months, and I've gotten 3 so far, right around the same amount. They do have a very, very good history of increasing their dividend and sustaining that dividend. I believe it's almost like 20 years or something like that, if I remember correctly, that Realty Income's actually been giving out this dividend. It definitely doesn't have good growth or anything like that. Very, very poor growth, but I think that it still overall is a very solid monthly dividend stock to add in your portfolio, just in case you, mess up day trading or something like that. You're a new investor and you're really playing around with stocks. It's good to always have a monthly dividend coming in so that you can kind of cushion yourself a little bit if you were to incur any major losses. And I actually think it's at a really great buy-in point right here. As you can see, down 10% on the year. Most people might see a stock like this and be like, oh, that stock's got to be really bad. It's down on the year. There's nothing good happening. But wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense to buy a stock that's up 200% on the year. It would definitely make more sense, in some cases, obviously, to buy a stock on the dip rather than the rise. I mean, that's pretty basic stock market investing tip right there. So I think that stock's actually at a really good buy-in point. I just bought a share of it a couple days ago. I can't remember. Yeah, right there, February 2nd. It was literally yesterday. But anyways, Realty Income, great stock, right around $50. Might actually dip below it in the next couple of days, but have to wait and see with that. And one other one that I have in my portfolio that's actually not a stock, but it's an ETF if you wanted to add some ETFs to your portfolio that are under $50, which once again are somewhat hard to find because there's big ones like VU and SPY that are, in the $200+ range. But this one, SPHD, PowerShares SP 500, high dividend, low volatility portfolio. And as you can see over the year, up a little bit. Actually, I'm not 100% sure how accurate that is, but sometimes Robinhood messes up these charts. I'm not entirely sure if that's super accurate, but anyways, a year up, 5 year up quite a bit. Dividend yield a little below 4%. PE ratio, market cap, whatever. pretty solid ETF right here. And I don't know if I said this already, but it's a monthly dividend ETF. So they give out their dividends every single month, and they actually have increased it since I bought it quite a bit. I'm not sure if they're going to keep that up or not, but I actually believe that they are going to, considering they've been doing it for a couple of months now. But once again, this one just tracks some stocks in the S&P 500 that have high dividend yields but low volatility. So this stock probably isn't really going to go up or down very much. It's not going to have great growth. It's going to pretty much steadily increase because the stocks that it's holding are actually pretty decent stocks if you want to go check out their portfolio, but pretty solid ETF. Now, 2 stocks that I don't actually own. The first one, I'm going to try to get them out real quick because this video is getting a little long. The first one is eBay right here. eBay up quite a bit in the past week or so. They had a huge jump right here, but once again down because the whole market was down. But this is actually because they had a really, really good earnings report. And I believe they should have a PE ratio right now. I'm not 100% sure why they don't. I believe they should and do, because last time I checked they did, but maybe it's switched up because they just had an earnings report. I'm not entirely sure what happened with that, but they had a pretty good earnings report that basically kind of said, I didn't really go through all of it, I just saw a couple of articles about it, but basically just said they had really good e-commerce sales, so up 37% on the year, up 85% in the past 5 years. Another stock that I think is a pretty good e-commerce / tech pick, especially if you don't want to go out and buy Amazon, if you want to buy a stock similar to it. But the next stock and the last stock I'll be talking about that's under $50 is L Brands, and you might not recognize the company right away, but this is actually just basically Victoria's Secret. I believe they own a couple other like Bed Bath & Body, and yeah, really just Victoria's Secret and Bed Bath & Body and Pink and a couple other those offshoot companies. But LB Brands has been around for a while. They still have good sales number, very, very good dividend yield actually. Definitely not the best growth by any means. Down on the year, a lot of retail companies have been getting hit hard, but I think this is one of the companies that's going to stick through it. But it definitely will be going through some rough waters in the past few years and then the upcoming years. But really, really good dividend yield on that, which is kind of weird to see. I think it's just because of the price fluctuations and they're not really changing the dividend yield yet. But anyways, those are the stocks. I'm going to list off their ticker symbols again. BACT, INTC, PFE, GM, SQ, eBay, and LB. And then the one ETF was SPHD. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like. And comment below if you agree with these stocks, if you think they're good picks under $50. And if not, what are some other stocks that are pretty decent buys under $50? But like I said before, if you haven't checked out my channel before, I talk about investing, I talk about the stock market, really anything that's new with money. So if you're interested in anything like that, definitely head over to my channel, Investing Potentials, and consider subscribing. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching.